Okay, I'm what you need. You watch my channel. My eyes are a little puffy and stuff, so I'm putting on the shades for the sake of that. All right, let's get into it. What makes Ryan Garcia so special? And I don't mean special in the sense of, he's so special. I'm not talking like that. I'm talking about he's really special in an interesting way. So we want to get into that right now, right? I'm gonna show you something about King Rye. King Rye really has already done quite a lot, when it comes to prize fighting. And then we're going to talk about a couple other fights like Bivol versus Artur Beterbiev. We're going to talk about Deontay Wilder versus Ziling Zhang. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff. So let's get into it. You guys can donate to this channel. You can donate to the channel through PayPal. Support this channel through PayPal. The link is in the chat. It's pinned at the top of the chat, as well as it is also found in the description. In addition, I got some questions here, but it's not going to display on the screen, but it's still there. Who you got winning this fight? And two, can King Rye win by fighting aggressively but dirty? So those are the questions I have in the chat. You guys can feel free to answer them, engage it, in the chat. Now, what I want to talk to you guys about real quick is some figures I seen and some similarities between King Rye and Mr. Face of Boxing, sort of like Mr. Cash Cow of boxing, Mr. Canelo Alvarez. Okay, there are some similarities between King Rye and Canelo Alvarez. I'm going to show you what they are. I like to show, right? Y'all know that. What you need likes to show. Okay. All right. So, yes, Ryan Garcia is one of only two boxers in the history of boxing to have their first pay-per-view over 1 million pay-per-view buys. The other boxer who did this at around the same age is Canelo Alvarez at the age of 23. So Ryan was 24, Canelo was 23. And Ryan Garcia faced the best, one of the best lightweights in the world, Gervonta Tank Davis. And that broke records for the year. It was, I think, the highest grossing pay-per-view of that year. The other fighter to do that was Canelo Alvarez. And here it is right here. That was Canelo's first pay-per-view. It was against Floyd Mayweather. And he did 1 million more pay-per-view buys than Ryan Garcia. So Ryan Garcia is a very, very special fighter. But it is. Right. So other than Canelo Alvarez, Ryan Garcia is the only other boxer in the history of boxing to win their first pay-per-view. Remember, Floyd, Tank, Devin Haney, Terrence Crawford, you have Oscar De La Hoya, all these people never had the kind of pay-per-view that Ryan Garcia. They never debuted in their pay-per-view debut making over 1 million pay-per-view buys. Nobody, except for Canelo Alvarez. In that fight that Canelo Alvarez had, Canelo had a lot more experience, a lot more championship experience, a lot more fights when he faced Floyd Mayweather. But he wasn't ready for Floyd Mayweather. And he lost that fight. Now, Ryan Garcia, he'd never been a world champion. He was working his way up to it. He fought Gervonta Tank Davis. He got stopped in that fight, or he quit in that fight. But they made record paydays. Him and Tank made record paydays. And Ryan Garcia is the only fighter the only fighter in the history of boxing to not be a world champion and to rake in that kind of pay-per-view. So Ryan's in a whole special niche of his own as he goes into fighting Devin Haney. The second point that makes Ryan very special is the fact that Ryan appeals to a demographic, unlike Canelo Alvarez, who appealed to a boxing demographic exclusively. Ryan appeals to the general pop demographic because he started doing these sort of reality kind of TV stuff with YouTube, where you can see into his life and his daily movements. Ryan has become something of almost like a reality show uh, host or personality, and so Ryan let people into his life, sort of like certain aspects of his life. And so, because he does that on Twitter, social media, etc., he's extremely popular. All right. So, Ryan is a little different to just about everybody else. Raleigh Romero never did great pay per view. He did okay pay per view. He did. I mean, he had the highest pay per view buys, I think, until Ryan came on the scene. Nobody else can compete with Ryan Garcia in terms of pay-per-view buys, in terms of uh, an attraction. Now, whether or not the pay-per-view buys for this fight, Ryan versus Devin Haney, they reach, you know, over 1 million pay-per-view buys is another story. Okay, that it's dirt cheap. The pay-per-view for this fight is dirt cheap. So I'm gonna actually purchase a pay-per-view myself because it's just way too cheap. I'm definitely gonna purchase one. And I think you can purchase outside of the zone, and you can purchase also with the zone. So we'll see. I think I'm gonna purchase this pay-per-view. If I have enough money, I'm gonna purchase this pay-per-view. Now, with respect to Ryan Garcia and pay-per-view buys, we don't know where Ryan Garcia will reach in terms of pay-per-view buys for people at this fight. But even so, I want to show you guys how rare it is to cross that $1 million pay-per-view buys attraction. So when we look at Canelo Alvarez here, all right. When we look at Canelo Alvarez's career here, all right, there you go. You can see after his very first initial pay-per-view, where he did 2.2 million pay-per-view buys, when he fought his next opponent, the pay-per-view buys fell drastically lower. Canelo versus Anguilla, 350 pay-per-view buys, 350,000 pay-per-view buys. Canelo versus Lara, 300,000 pay-per-view buys. But when he faced Miguel Cotto, who was a pay-per-view star and a pay-per-view draw, it went up to almost 1 million pay-per-view buys. When he fought Khan, 600,000 pay-per-view buys. Smith, 300. When he fought Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., it went up to 1 million pay-per-view buys. The only other fights where he reached 1 million pay-per-view buys was his 2 fights with Golovkin, not the third one. Okay, Canelo has not had a fight where he has crossed 1 million pay-per-view buys since his second fight with Golovkin. In other words, after all of his career, Canelo's only had 4 pay-per-view fights where he crossed over 1 million pay-per-view buys. 4. So it's extremely rare to get over 1 million pay-per-view buys. Now, in addition to this, I want to say something else. Now, I know the ticket prices have dropped, and I also know that the pay-per-view buy, at least if you are subscribing to the Zone, the pay-per-view buys have dropped. The pay-per-view has dropped. Now, I don't know if you have to buy through some other site or some other source what the pay-per-views would be. So that's a good question. But I know now against Devin Haney, who's a great threat, if people can see a way how Ryan Garcia could make this fight very competitive, which I think it's going to be. It's going to be. I think Ryan's going to fight. Now that I look at what Ryan's doing when he's training, etc., I'm beginning to realize Ryan is going to be like Marcos Maidana. He's not going to give a fuck, and he's going to come. He's going to be bringing the heat. I see he's doing a lot of ab work, a lot of core body strength to keep him. He needs to have high work rate. He needs to be able to throw a lot of punches. Because Ryan has a good knowledge also of boxing, Ryan Garcia is also going to be able to be tactical at times and be able to set up his counters. If Ryan fights dirty, if Ryan doesn't give a flying F, if Ryan goes in there and brings the pressure to Devin Haney and at times goads Devin Haney into coming after him, Ryan will make this fight into a fight, not a boxing match. And that's where he'll have his advantage. Because when it comes to boxing, Devin Haney's going to outbox him. So he has to put the heat on Devin Haney. Like I said, Floyd Mayweather versus Marcos Maidana is the model. Gustavo Lemos came straight out and he came straight at Richardson Hitchens. And Ryan has to do the same. And he has to be willing to take a shot and give a shot. He has to be able to bulldoze Devin Haney, rough him up, knock him down, kick him, knee him, butt him, bite him, elbow him, rough him up. Don't let him. He has to really rough up Devin Haney. And I think that's the mindset that Ryan's going into this fight with. And why everybody's thinking, oh, he's crazy and stuff. He's not crazy. He knows exactly what he's doing. It's not the end of Ryan Garcia's career if he loses to Devin Haney, particularly if he loses in a very interesting, entertaining fight. Ryan Garcia, there's a highly anticipated fight which will make money. Ryan Garcia versus Rolly Romero. That's a fight that is on the cards, and it's a fight that will make both guys money. Okay? So that's one thing. The second thing with Ryan Garcia is if Ryan Garcia gets beat by Devin Haney, or if he wins, it doesn't really matter which one, everybody in the division is going to be calling him out because a lot of money already. He's got a lot of fights lined up after this fight. You can pick and choose which fights he would want to fight, whether it's against Pitbull, whether it's against Raleigh. And I think that Ryan knows this. And what he's trying to do is build up a fan base, build up even more support for him in the long run. And I think he's like I said before, I think he's very special. He's in a very special position right now where people are going to want to fight him. Because he's the money man. He is a money man. And I think he's a bigger money man than Tank because Tank, in his first pay-per-view, Tank wasn't making that kind of money. And the only other person who did that was Canelo Alvarez. Okay. I think Ryan's going to give us all kinds of things. He's going to make the fight very interesting. And he talked about biting Devin Haney's ear. I don't think he should bite Devin Haney's ear, but I do think he needs to try and throw Devin Haney out of his game. To be able to do that, you're going to have to use some things outside of the Marcus of Queensberry rules, definitely. So we'll see how that goes. As for Devin Haney, I hope he's aware of this. I hope he's thinking about this because he's talking about knocking out Ryan Garcia. Okay. But just remember, Ryan Garcia's coming to fight. He's not coming to box. He's coming to fight. So if Ryan understands that, we're going to be all right. If he don't understand that, oh, yeah, he's going to be in for a night. He's going to be in for a night. Because Ryan going to get physical with him. Real physical with him. So that's what I got for you guys. I am what you need. Peace.